And now to present Grandmaster Award, my sister board member, Hilary Davidson, who is herself the award-winning author of the Lily Moore series. Her latest book, the standalone mystery, Blood Always Tells. She came to a life of crime from travel. She published 18 travel books before she saw the light and joined us in the mystery field. Hilary.
What Sarah really means is I went around the world finding places to hide bodies. I promised myself that I wouldn't turn into a rabid fangirl when presenting Lois Duncan with her Grandmaster Award tonight, but that's going to be a challenge. I've been reading her work since elementary school, and it's an incredible honor to speak about an exceptional author who's been such an influence on me and so many other writers. To call Lois Duncan a giant of the young adult genre would be an understatement. A giant of the genre might write some 50 books, many of them bestsellers, have her work translated into more than 20 languages, and win or be shortlisted for numerous awards along the way. All that is certainly true in Lois Duncan's case, but she hasn't simply been successful in the young adult genre. She was one of the trailblazers who created a new category of YA literature. You don't have to take the word of a rabid fangirl on this. No less of an authority than the New York Times just this month acknowledged Judy Blume, S.E. Hinton, and Lois Duncan as the three authors responsible for the rise of teenage-oriented publishing in the 1960s and 70s. I suspect Lois Duncan had a particularly strong sense of what teenagers were interested in reading because she was a teenager herself when she started writing professionally. She published her first short story when she was 13 years old. By the time she was 16, she'd earned enough cash to buy herself a Jeep. But if that sounds like the beginning of a charmed story, keep in mind that she was up against the censorship and the strict moral code of the 1950s. Her first novel, Debutante Hill, was initially rejected because of a scene with a 19-year-old boy drinking a beer. This seems crystal clear in retrospect, now that YA publishing is a multi-billion-dollar industry, but teenagers don't particularly care for adults telling them what to do. They're not interested in stories featuring perfect characters making choices that adults would approve of. And while it's easy to look back now and appreciate the path that Lois Duncan forged, it's tough work being the trailblazer forging that path. While she had early success publishing romance novels for teens and picture books for children, her suspense novels for teens met resistance. Her first novel in that dark vein, Ransom, told the story of 5 teenagers kidnapped by a school bus driver, and her publisher initially refused to publish it. But the book's enormous critical and commercial success, it was a finalist for an Edgar Award in 1967, opened a door no one realized needed opening. Even with that triumph, though, her path wasn't easy, perhaps because she continued to push boundaries and defy conventions. A Gift of Magic, her first novel that involved ESP, was rejected by 7 publishers before it found a home at Little Brown in 1971. That book has been so popular, it's never gone out of print. Daughters of Eve was called a rabble-rouser and banned in many school districts. Killing Mr. Griffin was banned because some people, who clearly never read the book, thought it would cause kids to kill their teachers. As Lois Duncan herself said, and I quote, "Those are often the same parents who encourage their children to read the Bible without the slightest concern that the story of Cain and Abel might encourage them to kill their siblings." But Lois Duncan's work connected with an ever-growing number of readers who became passionate, devoted fans. Several of her books have been made into films. I Know What You Did Last Summer is actually being filmed for a second time, while Down a Dark Hall has been optioned by Stephanie Meyer, the author of the Twilight series. The appeal of these stories has only increased over time. Lois Duncan has written remarkable nonfiction as well. 2 of these books deserve special mention because they're based on a real-life tragedy. In July 1989, her daughter Caitlin, the youngest of her 5 children, died in a drive-by shooting. The killers have never been brought to justice. Lois Duncan's two books dealing with the crime and its aftermath, 1992's Who Killed My Daughter and 2013's One to the Wolves, are painful, powerful, deeply personal accounts about the loss, her own courageous investigation into the crime, the cover-ups and corruption, and the danger her family faced in pursuing the truth. If there's one thread that links all of Lois Duncan's works, fiction and nonfiction alike, it's the emotional honesty and intensity at their core. Whatever she writes, from Daughters of Eve's view of sexism and violence, or my personal favorite, Stranger with My Face's horror-infused vision of unbreakable family ties, Lois Duncan makes it feel real by grounding these stories in the raw vulnerability of teenagers' lives. She understands the keen competition and fear of ostracism and the pressures coming from all sides. Her books stand up so well today because those things haven't changed. So it is my distinct honor to present the incomparable Lois Duncan with the Mystery Writers of America Grandmaster Award.
To say this is an unexpected honor, it would be putting it mildly, and to have it come on my 81st birthday. So to get this kind of birthday present from the Mystery Writers of America is just incredible. And everything I was going to brag about was just bragged about. It leaves me a little bit floundering around about what can I brag about now? But I would like to thank, first of all, the Mystery Writers of America for this absolutely unexpected and marvelous honor, and the three most important men in my life. My husband, Don Arquette, we've been married 50 years, and we've seen each other through a lot. And number two, my agent, the late George Nicholson, who would have introduced me. He was supposed to do that. And then we lost him about a month ago. And the memorial was this afternoon. And George has been in my life for so long because he was my editor at Dell when I first broke in. And then I was with an agent I wasn't happy with, and I told George that, and he said, well, he would recommend me to Claire Smith. And she was wonderful. And then I lost her finally because she died. And by that time, George had stopped being an editor and was an agent. And so, of course, I ran into his arms. And so he became my agent. So for over 40 years, he's been not only working with me on certain levels, but has grown to know our family and become a very, very close friend. And so we just lost George, and I would like to hold this in his honor because he would be so very happy to know that I was talking about him tonight and was honoring him in this way. And the third most important man in my life is going to be whatever muscular, hopefully good-looking young man comes up here to help me down off the stage. Come get me.